It was the show built around a talking horse. And somehow it ran for 5 seasons, produced 143 episodes, and became one of the most genuinely beloved comedies in the entire history of American television. The cast that made Wilbur Post's world feel real were remarkable people in their own right. Here's what happened to them when the stable doors finally closed. Number 1. We have Alan Young as Wilbur Post, the straight man to a horse, and nobody played that particular comic dynamic better than Alan Young, who was 40 years old when Mr. Ed first aired in 1961. Wilbur Post was the kind of endlessly patient, perpetually bewildered everyman that the show's entire premise depended on, and Young anchored all 144 episodes with a warmth and comic precision that made the whole impossible concept completely believable. See, his personal life moved through 3 marriages. First to Mary Ann Pringle in the 1940s, then to Virginia McCurdy in 1948, a partnership that lasted 47 years and produced 2 children before ending in divorce in 1995. He married Mary Chipman in 1996, though that chapter lasted only a year. Long after the show ended, his voice found an entirely new generation of fans. He became the iconic voice of Scrooge McDuck for Disney, a role that kept him working and beloved well into his later decades. Alan Young passed away on May 19, 2016, at the extraordinary age of 96. Number 2, we have Edna Skinner as Kay Addison. As the sharp, socially ambitious neighbor Kay Addison across 86 episodes, Edna Skinner was 39 years old when the show began, bringing a perfectly calibrated comic snobbery to the role that made Kay the ideal foil for the gentle chaos happening next door. Her chemistry with Larry Keating gave the Addison couple a distinct identity that kept the neighborhood dynamic, feeling genuinely alive throughout the first 4 seasons. She never married, keeping her personal life entirely away from public view throughout her career. Though those who knew her described a woman whose warmth and quiet loyalty stood in complete contrast to the character she played so convincingly every week. When Larry Keating passed away during production in 1963, the producers made the decision to write Kay out of the show as well. Feeling a widowed neighbor didn't suit the series' lighthearted tone, a tribute of sorts to a partnership that had worked so naturally on screen. Edna Skinner passed away on August 8, 2003, at the age of 82. Number 3, we have Jack Albertson as Paul Fenton. Arriving on the Mr. Ed set at 54 years old for his recurring appearances between 1961 and 1964, Jack Albertson was already a performer of serious theatrical pedigree. And what he went on to achieve after these guest appearances puts him in a category almost entirely his own. He became one of only a handful of performers in entertainment history to complete the Triple Crown, winning an Oscar, an Emmy, and a Tony Award across his career. Achievements that his warm, lived-in turn as Grandpa Joe in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory brought to the widest possible audience. In his personal life, he married June Thompson in 1952, and the two remained completely devoted to each other for nearly 3 decades, raising 1 daughter together. A steady, loving partnership that outlasted virtually everything else in an industry not known for permanence. Jack Albertson passed away on November 25, 1981, at the age of 74. One of the most genuinely accomplished performers ever to set foot on that particular set. Number 4, we have Florence MacMichael as Winnie Kirkwood. When the Addisons were written out following Larry Keating's passing, the show needed a new set of neighbors. And Florence MacMichael stepped in at 44 years old as the nervous, high-pitched Winnie Kirkwood across 40 episodes between 1963 and 1965, bringing a completely different comic energy that gave the show's middle seasons their own distinct flavor. That distinctively anxious vocal quality was her professional signature, a natural instrument that made her the go-to actress for fluttery, easily startled sitcom characters across an entire era of American television. In her personal life, her first marriage to James S. MacMichael ended in divorce before she married James P. Arvin in 1960, a relationship that brought genuine stability and lasted until his death in 1994. Over 3 decades of partnership built quietly alongside a busy working career. Florence MacMichael passed away on May 28, 1999, at the age of 80. Number 5, we have Larry Keating as Roger Addison, the pompous, blusteringly self-important neighbor, So Roger Addison was one of Mr. Ed's most reliably entertaining recurring presences. And Larry Keating was 61 years old when he brought that magnificently inflated ego to life across 81 episodes. Roger existed primarily to be outwitted by a horse he didn't know could talk, and Keating played every moment of that oblivious dignity with a comic commitment that made the joke work every single time. Behind the scenes, his connection to the show ran deeper than most viewers ever knew. George Burns, who owned the production company behind Mr. Ed, was a close personal friend and ensured that Keating's estate continued receiving residuals by keeping his contract active, even after his death. That quiet act of loyalty speaks volumes about the professional bonds this production formed. Larry Keating passed away on August 26, 1963. At just 64 years old, from leukemia, mid-production, mid-season, leaving a gap in the show's neighborhood that the writers never quite managed to fill in the same way again. Number 6, we have Leon Ames as Gordon Kirkwood. Stepping into the neighbor role at 61 years old when the Kirkwoods replaced the Addisons in 1963, Leon Ames brought a quiet, authoritative presence to Gordon Kirkwood across 40 episodes that gave the show's second half a more grounded, if equally entertaining, dynamic. His credentials went far beyond Mr. Ed. He had served as president of the Screen Actors Guild from 1957 to 1958, a position that reflected the enormous respect his peers held for him across an industry career stretching back to the 1930s. In his personal life, he married actress Christine Gossett in 1938, and the two remained completely devoted to each other for 55 years, a partnership that lasted right up until his death, producing 3 children and a family life built with the same quiet steadiness he brought to every professional role he ever inhabited. Leon Ames passed away on October 12, 1993, at the remarkable age of 91. Number 7, we have Barry Kelly as Carol's father. One of Hollywood's most dependable character actors of his entire generation, Barry Kelly was 53 years old when he began appearing as Carol's imposing, authoritative father across 11 episodes between 1962 and 1966, bringing exactly the kind of gruff, barrel-chested credibility to the role that the part required without ever overshadowing the comic chaos happening around him. He had spent decades building a career almost entirely in supporting roles as judges, and corrupt officials and authority figures, the kind of performer directors called when they needed instant gravitas without the negotiation of a star's demands. In his personal life, he married Kathleen Dorothea Schmidt in 1943, and the two remained together for nearly 5 decades. A partnership that carried its own quiet heartbreak at the very end, as Kathleen passed away in May 1991, just weeks before Barry followed her. Barry Kelly passed away on June 15, 1991, at the age of 82. The two of them gone within the same handful of weeks. A love story that ended almost exactly where it began. Number 8, we have James Flavin as Slattery. Across nearly 400 film and television appearances spanning half a century, James Flavin built one of the most quietly staggering bodies of work in the history of Hollywood character acting. And his recurring appearances as Slattery across 8 episodes of Mr. Ed between 1961 and 1965 represent just one small thread in a career tapestry of almost incomprehensible size. He was 54 years old during his first appearance on the show, already decades deep into a professional life spent almost exclusively playing police officers, detectives, and authority figures with a natural, unforced believability that made him one of the industry's most reliably booked supporting performers. In his personal life, he married actress Lucille Brown in 1932, and the two remained together for 44 years until his death. A partnership that produced 1 son and outlasted an entire golden era of Hollywood. James Flavin passed away on April 23, 1976, at the age of 69. And then, in one of the most poignant postscripts connected to anyone in this cast, his wife Lucille passed away just 17 days later, as though the decades they had shared simply made separation impossible. Number 9, we have Mr. Ed himself as Bamboo Harvester. Born in 1949, the Palomino horse who played Mr. Ed was already 11 years old when the show began, which in horse years made him a fully mature working performer rather than the young, spirited animal the character's personality suggested. Across 145 episodes, he delivered one of the most technically demanding and consistently entertaining animal performances in television history. And the question of exactly how he did it became one of the show's most enduring behind-the-scenes conversations. The popular story, that peanut butter placed under his lip prompted the mouth movements, turns out to be completely false. Alan Young and trainer Les Hilton later revealed that Bamboo Harvester was actually trained to move his lips when he felt a specific touch on his hoof, a genuine learned behavior that the production team eventually stopped correcting because the peanut butter version was simply a better story. Off the set, he was famously inseparable from his trainer Les Hilton and his stunt double companion Pumpkin, relationships that defined his daily life as completely as any human partnership. Bamboo Harvester passed away in 1970 at the age of 21, outliving the show by 4 years and leaving behind a legacy that no other animal in television history has come close to matching. Number 10, we have Connie Hines as Carol Post. Across all 144 episodes of Mr. Ed, the role of Carol Post required something that doesn't get enough credit: the ability to be a fully present, genuinely warm leading actress in a show where your primary narrative competition was a talking horse. Connie Hines was 30 years old when the show began, and she brought a natural likability and grounded comic timing to Carol that made the Post household feel completely real, despite the considerable unreality happening in the stable next door. She was candid in later years about the creative frustrations of playing what she sometimes described as the third wheel in a two-hander between a man and his horse, a dynamic that left Carol perpetually one step removed from the show's central relationship, no matter how warmly she played it. In her personal life, her first marriage to John J. Wright lasted from 1951 to 1959, a chapter that closed before the show ever found her. In 1970, she married entertainment lawyer Lee Savin, and the two built a genuinely happy life together for 25 years until his death in 1995. The friendship she and Alan Young maintained long after the cameras stopped was one of the most touching legacies the show produced. The two eventually hosted a cable access program together in their later years, two old friends returning to the screen simply because they enjoyed each other's company. Connie Hines passed away on December 18, 2009, at the age of 78, and with her went the last surviving human lead of one of television's most uniquely joyful experiments. Or from a silent film star spending his final years in background roles to a horse who learned to move his lips on cue, Mr. Ed assembled a cast of genuinely extraordinary human beings around the most unlikely premise television ever greenlit. Which story from this world surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments and don't forget to subscribe.